Hi, and welcome to Facilitating a Writing Workshop Virtually. My name is Diana Benner, and I am one of the directors of professional development at TCEA. If you have if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email address is dbenner@tca.org, and you can always find me on Twitter at diben. And joining me today, I have my colleague, Miguel Gulen. Miguel, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Miguel Gulen. I'm a director of professional development for TCEA. I work side by side with Diana, and you can find me on Twitter at MGLearn.
All right. Thank you so much, Miguel. So, today we are going to talk about facilitating a writing workshop and share some digital tools that you can use to do that. You can find all of the resources that we are about to share at ly.tca.org/WWV. Again, all of the resources can be found at ly.tca.org/WWV. So I'm going to go ahead and jump out to that website. So if you're asking yourself, why the writing workshop? What is the goal of the writing workshop? Basically, it is to give our students time to write. So, Miguel, would you like to add anything else about why we should be doing a writing workshop?
Absolutely. I think that one of the most wonderful aspects of uh, remote learning is this opportunity that students have to write at home, to get accustomed to writing at home in response to an expectation that we have for them as sort of well, as I guess as their writing workshop mentors and leaders. As a teacher with a write who did facilitate writing workshop, we did a lot of writing in the classroom to get kids accustomed to writing and writing about what's happening in their home. Now we have such great opportunity to capitalize on this and get them accustomed to writing at home about things that are going on in the world and what we share with them. And this is just I think something that we really can't pass up. And writing is such a great activity to introduce kids to, not only at school but also at home through remote learning and remote teaching.
And Miguel, we definitely want our students to take their writing seriously and view themselves as a writer. I know you yourself are an avid writer, correct?
You bet. I love to write, and it's something that when you start writing and if you can get your students to start writing and get into the zone. For people who write, you may know what this is. And I think it's probably something that happens when there's people out jogging or doing things. You get in a zone where you're focused, you're caught up in the activity, and time passes. And it's just a wonderful feeling to have that and to do that. And what we'd like to do today, I think, Diana, is really not only give students time to write, but also find a way for us to model being a writer.
Exactly, Miguel. That is correct. So, why don't we go ahead and get started and let's go through the writing workshop. So, to start us off, we have a mini lesson. So, with the mini lesson, either teacher, students, or guests are going to present a short lesson that introduces a new concept or meets the needs of the writers in the classroom. And these mini lessons should be about 5 to 10 minutes long. Isn't that right, Miguel?
You bet. One of the things that sometimes we get caught up in is teaching a full blown lesson. But when you're doing a writing workshop, you just want to show one small thing, one quick thing, and do that quickly within the 5 to 10 minutes. If you can do that in an even shorter time frame, that's even better, especially since you can always follow up with a model of what it is that you want kids to learn. So I think 5 to 10 minutes is probably the sweet spot in terms of of creating a mini lesson. Maybe even 3 to 5 minutes would work too.
All right, fantastic. So, Miguel, when teachers are doing this in a remote setting, what are some different tools or what are some tips that you have for the mini lesson?
Well, I think that when we think about working in a remote setting, it would be very easy to say, here, kids, here's a writing prompt, go to it. And in fact, you can use a website like Journal Buddies to find some free writing prompt suggestions. I'm wondering if we could click on Journal Buddies so that people could see what that looks like. And you can see this is actually one that was suggested to me by a master teacher in a large urban school district. And she was recommending this. I had never seen this before. My familiarity with writing prompts really comes from using literature and poetry, as I'll share a little bit later further down the page. But this free writing, if you scroll down, you can not only see writing prompts by grade level, but there's these age appropriate or grade level appropriate writing prompts. You can see 57 exciting third grade journal writing prompts. And I didn't mention it before, but getting your students to write in a journal and to attempt some of their writing in a journal, maybe it could be a notebook, it could be Google Docs, it could be whatever, OneNote, whatever tool you decide to use. These are wonderful ways to engage students and get them thinking, get them quick doing some quick writing. So Journal Buddies, if you're not familiar with journalbuddies.com, definitely check it out.
This is an excellent website, Miguel. Have to admit, I've never seen this before.
Well, I knew we would be chatting today about this, and so I checked with some of my colleagues in the field, and they shared some great resources and ideas with me, and this is one of them.
Fantastic.
Now, Diana, because of the short time period that we have with our listeners, we don't have time to click on every page, and I can tell you're excited about this resource.
I am, but I will go ahead and close it out.
One of the other neat ideas that's here is Flipgrid, and when we're talking about teaching a short lesson, if you think about it, Flipgrid just expanded their recording time to 10 minutes. Um, so that is at the sort of at the boundary of what your mini lesson can be. So what you could do is actually record your mini lesson to Flipgrid, and because they also announced screen recording, you can actually screen record yourself using Flipgrid, and you're going to and I included a link to the resource. I wonder if we could play the short advertisement that they put together uh, for
Is,
that.
is that linked here on your blog, Miguel?
Yes, if you scroll up a little bit, you actually went right by it. Scroll up a little bit more and keep going. It's right. It's under the wait section. There you go. So if you click on that, so I think what's really awesome about this is that not only can you uh, screen record your lesson straight into a Flipgrid topic that's focused on mini lessons, but then you can quickly record another video that will capture um, the writing that perhaps you're engaged in, which we'll talk about in just a moment. So Flipgrid is an incredibly versatile tool for remote learning, and I think it's the number one tool. We've included a getting started educators video over on the left hand side, which you can watch on your own. And then there's also a grades 3 through 5 reading and writing integration document there that you can click on, and you'll be able to see some of the resources for reading and writing. There's also some other great resources, but before we leave the sharing another video, Diana, I was wondering if you could jump us over to the remote learning website, um, TCA's remote learning website, because wasn't there a mini session just recorded on screen recording?
Actually, there was, Miguel, and I do have that linked. It's a little bit further down.
Well, let's not give away the rest of the page, but this might be a good opportunity to mention that TCA has a whole remote learning website that you can check out that addresses remote learning. And if you so it's tca.org/remote hyphen learning. And I see that screencast is right there on using screencast to facilitate learning from home. So if you click on it, we're not going to watch it. Um, but Diana, you recorded this one, I think,
I
right?
did. I did record this one, and we talked about using tools such as Screencastify, Screencast-O-Matic, and Loom.
Okay, fantastic. So there are lots of different screencasting tools. You don't just have to use Flipgrid's screencasting tool. And as you saw from the other blog entry, there are a lot of great resources. So pick the one that
And,
works best for you, I think.
and you can download the Google Slide template if you would like that as well.
Oh, fantastic.
All right. So let's go ahead and shall we go on to number 2, the status of the class?
Yes, absolutely. There's other great resources there, but we don't have to cover all of them. I think that you can certainly check out the Google Slides and HyperDoc ideas on your own. For the status of the class, one of the things that I love to do at the start of my writing workshop is just quickly check in with students and find out where they're at. I teach my mini lesson, do a quick write, modeling everything, and then I'd ask my students to work on whatever project they happen to be working on for that class period. And you can do the
So
same.
with this, Miguel, you're just checking in with your students to see how is their writing going, correct?
Exactly. You want to find out where are they in their piece. Do you need some peer conferencing to give you some feedback? Do you need me to sort of listen to you sort of read that and maybe talk about maybe your lead, your first few sentences or paragraph that captures attention? So how do you facilitate that status of the class when you're doing remote learning? And some tips for doing that are really using a learning management system. I think Seesaw is pretty phenomenal. You can sort of see that younger students, all they need to do is maybe write on regular size paper, just like that picture over to the right. And then at that point, you can take a picture of that or digitize that with your Seesaw app and just drop it right into uh, the class journal. So Seesaw is a wonderful tool. For older students, I would try Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you. Seesaw is a wonderful tool, especially if you're working with younger students. It's really easy to navigate.
And Seesaw, I think I just read they added like 4,000 new activities. And these activities are with a capital A in the sense that they have tons of great activities that students can actually complete that are uh, grade level appropriate. So these are pre-made activities. Although, like I said, I like to get kids focused on writing about poetry and literature. Activities for writing are also available and worth checking out.
Fantastic. Are there any other tools there that you want to talk about, Miguel?
Well, I know you're a fan of Kami, but Kami is a great tool for classroom integration, Google Classroom integration, because of the annotation components. And there's a short little video over there on the side that that you can watch on your own time that'll give you an overview. But Kami makes annotating uh, just about anything very easy. It's web based and your students can use it. And they also have a free, I guess, a special going on due to the COVID-19. Now, if you're wondering how to quickly digitize content, if you're in a Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams, then probably an app that students can actually load on their smartphones or the parents can is Office Lens. It's 100% free, and not only does it come with this ability to digitize student writing, but it can also turn it into, it can take advantage of what's called optical character recognition and read it out loud to students in the language that it was written in, that they wrote it in. But it also has this ability, especially because it has immersive reader built in, to translate into any language. And that's just an incredible resource that you can check out. So this is a blog entry that gives you a little bit of background on Office Lens and OneDrive, and you've got an infographic there that you can take a look at.
Well, that's great, Miguel. I know a lot of teachers are looking for ways for students to be able to digitize their work.
It's a really important piece, and of course, we've already mentioned screencasting tools that teachers can use to offer feedback. So, if during the status of the class you need to offer feedback to students um, on a piece of writing or even a video that they've recorded or a picture of their writing that they've taken, the screencasting tools that we've shared with you will make that very easy. And tools like Flipgrid, which now has built-in screencasting, really. And folks, the reason we're mentioning it so much is it just came out yesterday in April. So it makes it very easy to provide this video feedback to students, and that can sort of lessen the distance between you and the writer.
Well, that's awesome, Miguel. So, with status of the class, just making sure that you're checking in on your students, checking in on that writing, and seeing if they need anything.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's talk about writing and conferring.
Well, again, this whole idea of students writing and then conferring with their peers is really pretty important. And I want to just highlight that there are a lot of teachers doing this with their students. You can see in this picture that there's two students there who are having a peer conference, but what they're able to do is record it using Flipgrid. And so this is a really interesting way to get this feedback. And I think in probably the next section we'll talk about a specific strategy that you can use. But I think it's a fun one to also teach parents. So a part of this would be to encourage parents to learn a strategy to offer feedback to students writing. It will enhance their interactions with their child and, of course, deepen their learning. I still remember having those chats with my dad many a night when I'd write something and I'd take it over to him and watch him figure out how to be polite and give me constructive feedback. Um, so it's something that students will tend to internalize over time as they hear their parent ask these questions, and of course, peer conferencing at a distance as possible. Another neat way, and I have to mention Microsoft Teams because in Teams you can actually set up channels with students, and these are virtual, of course, channels, and so students can be. You can have two or three or however many students you want in a channel, like a subset of your students or your class, and they can have a conversation about pieces of writing. They can record audio or video depending on, of course, what you allow as the teacher. So a lot of power that's built into some of our learning management systems. You can do
And
something. Go ahead.
I like how you have there too that also in Seesaw you can create small groups.
Yeah, I think it's a really neat way to do this. Of course, I would encourage some kind of rubric or conversation guide. I'm wondering if we could click on that link right underneath the picture. That's actually, if you click on the link, I mean, if you click on the picture, it takes you to a Twitter. But if you click on the link to the that's right underneath it, this is a really neat piece. It's, of course, this one's aimed at middle school teachers, and I've taught writing workshop at middle school and elementary, and I really enjoyed what the teachers here had to say about peer-to-peer conferences, and the idea of peer response. So this is a 59-minute video, and I'm sure if you watch the entire 10 steps, that would be quite a bit. But even though it goes, I mean, this was, I think, recorded back in 2004 or produced in 2004. You're going to get some really solid insights that you can bring to the table, especially when you're working with students. You may not have time to look at all these videos right now, but if you watch just a portion of them, I think that you'll get some good insights.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Miguel. Okay, are we ready to go on to 4, practicing tag?
I think so, and I'm wondering if we could just let the video do all the talking for this one, because this is a great 60-second strategy. And I want you to notice, I mean, this is something that I used in my writing workshop when we did group share. My class would sit in a circle and we would go through this, and this was group share for me, where we all sat in a circle and we did the tag, was something that was so important. And I had no idea that this was could be used for other things. And this 60-second strategy tag feedback is really a powerful video.
All right, well, let's take a look at that.
You have 3 minutes for your tag feedback. T, tell something you like. A, ask a question. G, give a suggestion. Tag is our school-wide critique process. It's a very quick, formative way to say, hey, this is what you did great, and here are your next steps. At the completion of a lesson, they select which work they want to critique. We have a tag protocol sheet to write their feedback. You always want to start with a positive, something that the student did well. Then A, ask a question. Why did you make this decision? How did you do that? And then G, give a suggestion, what they can do to improve their work. They share out their feedback and their next steps.
I like how Sebastian did this guy behind the buildings.
When they come in for their next session, they're all ready to go applying feedback.
What do you
Great,
think?
great video that explains the tag approach. I like that.
Yeah, I did too, and I like the fact that she demonstrates it with younger students. I also like that it's a great model to introduce students to, uh, for offering feedback. And this is something that I guarantee you, when once you show your students how to do this, and you see how easy it is, it's pretty quick. It's going to be incredible to see them practice it on Flipgrid.
All right. So those are the 4 steps for the writing process to help your students, just get them some time to write, to improve their writing, and get themselves to start thinking of themselves as a writer. Now, Miguel, did you want to mention some information about National Poetry Month?
I did, but I did also want to sort of tag along on the last point, if you forgive the pun. The what's really also a lot of fun is celebrating student writing, and so make sure that when students write something and they've done all the editing and revisions, and they're comfortable with sharing it with a wider audience, that you do share it with a wider audience. I really like how Seesaw makes it easy to add a student class journal entry and publish it very easily to the blog. And I think that combining that with the students sharing some video or audio of them talking about their piece is going to be a winner for them. It's going to give them that sense of community, the writers community that we want to form in a classroom. So the writing workshop is the purpose of this is to sort of create this great environment for students to write, for them to see you writing, and then to have learning conversations that are going to help them or assist them in improving that writing. But then the goal, of course, is to publish, to make their work known to the world. And I think that is something that you can do with lots of different technologies that we've talked about. So don't keep all that greatness locked up inside of your learning management system. Find some way to put it out there that is safe to do. And maybe that should be part two of our next writing workshop video series.
I agree, Miguel, because it's so important that students be able to publish their work for an audience. I remember working with teachers, and the students were doing fantastic things, and unfortunately, it was just kept with the teacher, and no one else saw it. So, publishing is very important.
It's great to hear you say that. So, talking about publishing and sharing, I don't know about you, but I get emails from the National Writing Project, which I really like the National Writing Project. They're wonderful. They're always sharing great resources and things like that. So,
I love the National Writing Project. I'm actually a teacher consultant for the National Writing Project.
I had no idea, Diana. So I'm really curious and hopeful you'll share how we can all stay connected as part of the National Writing Project. I know that sometimes there's conferences and events in Texas and elsewhere, and it's going to be hard to keep those things going, but maybe virtual. So, anyways, the National Poetry Month is April, and I had to steal that line from T.S. Eliot, who argued April is the cruelest month. And given the news in April, that's quite believable. But you can learn about National Poetry Month this April and all future Aprils. Uh, and I really want to encourage you not to be not afraid to find, read, and share poems all month with your students. If you're a little shy about reading poetry, remember your students will welcome hearing and seeing you read a poem. And it doesn't have to be long, and there's a lot of great silly stuff out there that you can do. I also love this National Poetry Month. Remember, all is in motion, is growing, is you. It's just a fantastic poem there. They also have a Poem in Your Pocket Day. It takes place every year on a day in National Poetry Month. I believe this year it's April 30th. So we will be in a very different place April 30th. So let's definitely take um, the idea of poem in your pocket um, and do that. So it's this idea of selecting a poem and sharing it with others. So one of the ways that we can do that is to share those poems online, especially in our class virtual space. So hopefully you'll have a space where you can share. Then, in the spirit of sharing poetry, I mentioned earlier that I like to share, as to get kids writing, especially for the mini lessons. One of my favorite authors, and I share this every time. And Diane, I know you're just tired of hearing me talk about Kenneth Koch, who who un,
I thought, Miguel.
who unfortunately passed away quite a few years ago. But he wrote a book. He actually wrote several books. One of my favorites is one called Wishes, Lies, and Dreams, and it has a seat of honor on my bookshelf right next to Rose, Where Did You Get That Red? And I believe you could probably find those books still in print online. But his instructions for students, and I want you to think about this because this is such an easy thing to share with your students online. He wrote, When I become interested in teaching a particular poem, I would look for a poetry idea to go with it, such as for the Blake class. And of course, by Blake, he's talking about William Blake, Tiger, Tiger, Burning Bright in the Force of the Night. So the tiger, that poem is really, has a lot of vivid imagery. So what he does is he reads a poem like that to the students, and he says, imagine you are talking to a mysterious and beautiful creature, and you can speak its secret language, and you can ask it anything you want. And so I actually had my son James, when he was much younger, read and do a poem. And this one is Butterfly, Does the Blue Fire Burn? So I was wondering if we could finish off our webinar by watching that video.
Absolutely.
Butterfly, Does the Blue Fire Burn? An adaptation by James G. Butterfly, where did you get your eyes? From the walnuts I found on the ground. Butterfly, how did you set your wings on fire? I flew too close to the campfire and sparks landed on me. Butterfly, where did you get your glow? From the love I have for you.
Well, very nice, Miguel. Now, do you know who created this wonderful poem here?
It was there was a I think there was a butterfly. Well, no, I don't remember that much anymore. To be the honest answer is no, I don't remember. I know that we adapted it for this particular piece, but the there were similar poems, and that's what's neat about Kenneth Koch's Rose, Where Did You Get That Red? There's so many different. He has different examples in his book, so you can use any of those examples as a way to sort of kick off student poetry writing. And I love writing poems with students because it really gets them, it's quick success, and it engages them in the writing process. I use this with when I was working in Catula uh, with low socioeconomic students, and their idea of writing was really sometimes to just write the same sentence over and over again until they got a paragraph. Um, and I remember thinking, how am I ever going to get them past that? And writing workshop and doing poetry was one way to do that. And it was such an easy way to get going. And I think it's one that we can use with our children in remote learning.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that information about National Poetry Month, Miguel.
Thank you, Diana.
All right. So, again, if you did not get the link to where all of these wonderful resources are, they can be found at ly.tca.org/WWB. All right. Another resource that we do want to point you to is the TCEA Tech Notes blog. That is found at blog.tca.org. If you go out to that blog, you can do a search for remote teaching or remote learning, and blogs related to those topics will come up. So, again, thank you for joining Miguel and I for this facilitating a writing workshop virtually as part of our remote learning series. Miguel, do you have any final words?
I don't. Thank you, though.
All right. Thank you all so much.